For nearly 5 decades, Graceland stood frozen in time, honoring Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll.
There are places in this world that hold secrets so heavy, so layered with time and emotion, that opening them feels almost wrong, like disturbing something sacred. The attic at Graceland was one of those places. For 48 years, it sat above one of the most visited homes in America, just a wooden floor and a locked door separating the curious world below from whatever lay inside. Tour guides walked thousands of visitors past the roped-off staircase every single day. World leaders came and went. Journalists begged. Fans speculated. And still, that door never opened. Until now, in January 2025, for the first time since August 1977, a small team of archivists climbed the narrow staircase at Graceland and turned a brass key that had not moved in nearly half a century. What they found inside did not just surprise them. It shook them, because what was stored in Elvis Presley's attic was not junk, not forgotten furniture, and not the random overflow of a celebrity life. It was something far more intimate, far more human. It was the private soul of a man the world thought it already knew completely. This is the story of what was found, why it was hidden, and what it tells us about the real Elvis Presley. To understand why the attic mattered so much, you first have to understand what Graceland meant, not just to Elvis, but to an entire country. Elvis Aaron Presley purchased Graceland in March 1957. He was 22 years old, already famous beyond anything most people experience in a lifetime, and desperately searching for something that felt like home. The property sat on about 14 acres just outside Memphis, Tennessee. It had a big white colonial-style mansion, rolling green lawns, barns, stables, and enough land to feel like an escape from the world that was already pressing in on him from every direction. He did not rename it. The property had been called Graceland since the 1930s, named after the original owner's daughter. Elvis liked the name. Some people who knew him well said he liked the idea of grace, the religious kind, the kind his mother Gladys had always talked about in church back in Tupelo, Mississippi, where he grew up with almost nothing. Graceland became more than a house very quickly. It became a reflection of who Elvis was at every stage of his life. The jungle room, with its green shag carpet covering not just the floors but the walls, and its tiki-style furniture, told you something about his playful, extravagant taste. The meditation garden, with its white columns and quiet fountains, told you something else entirely, something about the part of him that needed stillness, that needed God, that needed to think without anyone watching. He added a racquetball building. He had a basement television room where he could watch 3 channels simultaneously, a remarkable thing in the 1960s. He brought a chimpanzee named Scatter onto the property, a creature famous among staff for snatching drinks from guests and causing general chaos at parties. Scatter, people joked, was the version of Elvis that never had to behave. But Graceland's character changed permanently on August 16, 1977. That was the afternoon Elvis Presley was found unresponsive on the bathroom floor of his upstairs suite by his girlfriend, Ginger Alden. Emergency services rushed him to Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis. By 3:30 in the afternoon, doctors declared him dead at the age of 42. The cause given publicly was cardiac arrhythmia. His heart had simply stopped. The grief that followed was unlike almost anything America had seen for a private citizen. An estimated 100,000 people descended on Memphis in the days after his death. They lined the streets outside Graceland, leaving flowers, photographs, handwritten notes, and tears on the iron gates. When Elvis was laid out for a public viewing inside the mansion, wearing a white suit and a light blue shirt, people who filed past said they would never forget the sight. He was initially buried at Forest Hill Cemetery alongside his mother, Gladys, who had died in 1958 and whose death had broken something inside Elvis that never fully healed. But just 2 days after the funeral, a deeply disturbing event forced the family's hand. A group of men attempted to break into the cemetery in the middle of the night and steal Elvis's coffin. They were caught before they could complete the act, but the attempt was enough. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, worked quietly with authorities and had both Elvis and Gladys moved and reburied in the meditation garden at Graceland, surrounded by the flowers and fountains Elvis himself had planted years before. That decision changed the property forever. Graceland stopped being just a home. It became a fortress. Vernon added security systems, hired round-the-clock guards, and sealed off sections of the house he felt should remain private. The entire second floor, including Elvis's bedroom and the bathroom where he had died, was declared off-limits. And above the second floor, the attic was sealed completely. When Graceland opened to the public in 1982, the year after Vernon passed away, visitors could explore most of the ground floor. They could stand in the kitchen where Elvis had famously made peanut butter and banana sandwiches at 2 in the morning. They could admire the stained glass window in the living room and stand quietly at the graves in the meditation garden. But the staircase was always roped off. The attic was never mentioned in the official tour. When visitors asked, guides always gave the same answer, delivered with a polite but firm smile. The upstairs is private, out of respect for the family. For 48 years, that answer held. Even after Elvis's daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, became the steward of the estate, the attic remained closed. Lisa Marie knew what was up there. She had chosen to honor her father's apparent wish that it stay private. When she passed away unexpectedly in January 2023 at the age of 54, the responsibility fell to her eldest daughter, Riley Keough. And Riley made a different decision. Before the attic could be opened under peaceful circumstances, Graceland itself nearly slipped away. In the spring of 2024, a company called Nosany Investments and Private Lending LLC filed legal paperwork to auction off Graceland. According to the documents, Riley Keough had allegedly defaulted on a loan worth $3.8 million secured against the property. The filing appeared in Shelby County, Tennessee, and the auction date was set to happen within days of the notice becoming public. The Elvis fan community reacted with immediate panic. Social media forums flooded overnight with fear, confusion, and anger. Who was this company? How had this happened? Was Graceland truly about to be sold? Riley Keough's legal team moved fast. They filed an emergency injunction in the same Tennessee court, arguing that the entire claim was fraudulent. The signatures on the loan documents, they said, had been forged. Riley had never signed anything with Nosany Investments. She had never borrowed this money. The paperwork was fabricated, a sophisticated attempt to seize one of the most valuable cultural landmarks in the United States through legal deception. The judge reviewed the evidence quickly. What made the ruling even more striking was what happened in the courtroom, or rather what did not happen. No representative from Nosany Investments appeared to defend the claim. The company that had filed papers to sell Graceland did not show up when it mattered. The judge ruled in Riley's favor just one day before the auction was scheduled, stopping the sale entirely and describing Graceland as a one-of-a-kind cultural asset whose loss would constitute irreparable harm to the public. Graceland stayed in the Presley family, but the incident rattled Riley Keough deeply. It was a reminder of how vulnerable the legacy was, how much history was stored inside those walls, and how little the outside world actually knew about what was there. It was shortly after this legal battle resolved that Riley made the announcement that stunned even the most devoted Elvis historians. The attic would be opened. A team of professional archivists would be brought in to document, catalog, and preserve everything inside. The time for secrecy, she decided, had passed. January 2025. A cold Tennessee morning with a low gray sky and bare trees along the property line. A small group of archivists assembled at the base of the narrow staircase inside Graceland. They wore white cotton gloves. They carried cameras, cataloging sheets, and archival storage materials. They had been briefed on the basic outline of what might be inside, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality. The lead archivist inserted an old brass key into the attic lock. The key had remained in the Presley family's possession since 1977. It had never been duplicated. No one outside the immediate family circle had ever been given a copy. The lock turned. The door creaked open. The first thing that hit them was the air cool, dry, and absolutely still. A small window unit air conditioner mounted near one of the dormer windows had been maintained by the Graceland maintenance crew for decades, quietly running on a separate circuit, keeping the room at a controlled temperature without anyone ever going inside to check on what it was preserving. That small mechanical fact may have saved everything in that room from deterioration. As the archivist's eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through the blackout curtains over the dormer windows, the scale of what was in front of them became clear. The attic ran the entire length of the house. It was far larger than people had imagined based on the building's exterior. And it was not messy. It was not the random accumulation of someone's life shoved up a staircase and forgotten. It was organized, deliberately, carefully, almost obsessively organized. Along the longest wall stood rows of cardboard and wooden boxes, each one labeled in handwriting the archivists immediately recognized from documents they had studied in preparation. It was Elvis's own hand. The labels read like chapters of a life. Tupelo, 1945. First recordings. Army Days. Hollywood. Comeback Special. Vegas. Each one a period, a version of the man, archived by the man himself. And at the end of the row, one box that stood apart from the others in its simplicity. Just the word after, with the year 1977 written below it in the same careful hand. The archivists worked methodically, photographing every item before it was touched, assigning catalog numbers, creating a digital record that would take months to fully process. But certain discoveries were impossible to pass by without pausing. In the Tupelo section, beneath a layer of tissue paper that had yellowed with age, lay a stuffed bear. Small, worn nearly smooth in places, missing one glass eye, with patches of different fabric sewn carefully onto its body. Family records and correspondence confirmed what the archivist suspected. This was the toy Elvis had called simply Bear, his childhood companion from the years in Tupelo when the Presley family had almost nothing. His mother Gladys had repaired it repeatedly, sewing patches from her own worn-out clothing to keep it together. You could still make out faint floor